Today's podcast is brought to you by Quantrix Modeler Introductory Training, teaching the fundamental foundation that you need to become a Quantrix master. Go to quantrixauthority.com to learn more.
Show me how you do Quantrix.
Hey, welcome back to another Netcast. I'm Rich Lopez, Quantrix Authority. Sincerely appreciate you joining me today for episode number 211, Summary Items and the Summary Function. This is something that I don't know if I've ever done a podcast on. I think I've done some podcasts on how it can be a pitfall to you if you don't know what you're doing. But I want to talk to you about summary items in Quantrix. Let's say I have here a basic matrix that has members as my category, and within it, it has 3 members here in group 1, and it has another 3 members here in group 2. And I want to go ahead and I want to summarize these groups. Let's say that J1 is actually sales. Let's say that I want to summarize group 1's sales. Now, the way you'd maybe do this in a traditional spreadsheet is you would go ahead and you would hit enter, and then you would say sum of group 1, all right? And you would then maybe write a formula that says sum of member 1 to member 2 and member 3. And you would do the same thing for group 2. Let me undo that. You do the same thing for group 2, say sum of group 2. And again, you would write another formula that says sum of member 4 to member 6. And you'll notice just a couple things, these double dots here, these double periods, that is really kind of how you do a range of items within Quantrix. By simply, I selected them, but I could just as easily type them out instead of clicking and dragging with my mouse. I could have done member 1 ... member 3, and that is actually available, this little ... right here in the formula bar. But anyway, just know that that is just kind of a range of cells. But what I have here is I have created a couple summary items that go out and summarize group 1's members, and I've done that here with group 2 as well. Now, what if I wanted to go ahead and calculate all of the members and get a total for them? Well, you would think, well, I would simply do it like I would in an Excel spreadsheet, and I would simply go ahead and I would say, sum of members, and then I would go, it equals the sum of group 1 and group 2. But the problem is when I do that, it's actually also considering this 71 and this 60 in the calculation. And we might be able to see that if I go ahead and use the dependency inspector. You can see that indeed it's pulling in the 60. If I zoom in on that, see if I can zoom in on that. It is indeed pulling in the 60, and it's pulling in the 71, which are my summary items, and therefore I am double counting. And I don't want that to happen, right? So then I may be tempted to go in and say, well, it's not really that, it's really the sum of, it's really this sum of group 1 plus this sum of group 2, and that gives me my right answer. But I'm going to show you why you don't want to do that here in just a second. So what happens though if I write these formulas and I go ahead and I add another member to this group, because it happens from time to time, right? Well, if I go ahead and I put a value in here, you can see that my group 1 is now not updating the way that it needs to, because it should include this 50 that I just added. But you can see in my sum of group 1, I'm only going from member 1 to member 3, so therefore now I have to go to member 4. And I would say something like, I don't think that's scalable, because it's not. And then you even have a hard time writing it and getting it correct when you have to go in and manually fix it like I am. And so you can see that this is kind of a pain. I wouldn't want to do this. I would want this to happen for me automatically. Well, in Quantrix, you can have that happen for you automatically by using what is known as a summary item. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these guys here, okay? And all of their accompanying formulas. So let me just go in here and get the formulas. And then what I want to do is I want to say that I want to insert a summary item, and I'm simply going to go up here and click on this sigma sign after I select this group. And what it does is it adds a sum summary item. and it says this is the sum of group, and it gives me a little sigma sign right here. And I can change the name of this if I want to say total of group 1, whatever. I can do that, but what it does is it gives me a formula down here that says sum summary of group 1. Okay, if I want to do the same thing for group 2, I could go ahead and do that. And again, I could rename it total of group 2. Well, what about creating a summary item for member here? Well, I click on my member category, I click on sum, the sigma, and then I get sum of member. And as you can see here, what has happened is because I have used this summary as part of my sum in these other two calculations, Quantrix skips it. Skips these total items, these summary items, when it's calculating this summary here when I use sum summary. If I were to go ahead and delete summary from here, it goes ahead and it gives me a circular reference for 1, but if I add, and it also gives me a double counting, but if I go ahead and I use sum summary here, Quantrix knows to ignore itself within that this item should ignore itself within the calculation, as well as it should ignore the other summary items within the calculation, as long as those other summary items have been calculated using sum summary. So that's something for you to think about and to ponder, is this sum summary function. But it's really great in the fact that if I now want to add another member to group 3 and add another value to him, say it's 50, my total group updates correctly, as well as my sum of member updates correctly. I'm not having any double counting, and this is made possible because when I use a sum summary, again, it ignores itself, therefore it's not circular, and also it ignores any other items that have the sum summary or the summary function calculation. If these were, say, mins or maxes in here, and then I had summary, it would ignore them. And maybe I'll show you that in the next episode, which will be kind of a part 2 of this one. Anyway, I hope that you find this helpful. If you have any questions about sum summary or summary items, I hope that you'll reach out to me at quantrixauthority@gmail.com. I absolutely love Quantrix, and I want to make you a Quantrix master. So please join me again for another episode of Quantrix Authority with Rich Lopez.